So far in the Demon Slayer story, Yoriichi has been the most powerful character, no doubt. But after his death, demons are still dominating humans to this day. In fact, even the Hashira cannot solely compete with the immense power of the Upper Moon demons. But imagine what would happen if Yoriichi were alive today. If he were to fight all the Upper Moons along with Muzan by himself, would Yoriichi be able to fight and defeat them? Or would he be defeated? Without wasting any time, let's get started with this video titled, What if Yoriichi fights all the Upper Moons with Muzan? We'll divide this video into two parts. First, we'll see if Yoriichi, fighting all the Upper Moons one by one alone, would have enough strength and energy left after defeating Upper Moon 1 to fight Muzan. In the second scenario, we'll see what would happen if all the demons fought against Yoriichi together. Would Yoriichi be able to defeat them all at once? Okay, without further ado, let's start with the first scenario. Yoriichi versus Daki and Gyotaro. The cells of Muzan and Daki reacted in fear when she saw Tanjiro's earrings, which Muzan's cells thought were Yoriichi. So you can probably guess what would happen if Yoriichi really stood up against her. Daki's fighting instinct would be completely gone, and before the fight even begins, Daki would be easily defeated, and then Gyotaro would appear. In a realistic scenario, a Hashira would wish to eliminate a demon before there are any casualties, just like Tengen Uzui did. When Tengen Uzui saw another demon emerging from Daki, he tried to cut off the demon's head right there and then. Yoriichi would do the same. In the most realistic scenario, Yoriichi would immediately chop off Gyutaro's head. But let's assume that Gyutaro survives this attack. Even so, Gyutaro would not be able to survive for long after this. Although Yoriichi would cut off Daki's and Gyutaro's heads one or two times, he would quickly realize that he needs to cut both their heads at once, which won't take Yoriichi much time, as we are considering that Daki's spirit is completely broken and only Gyutaro is fighting. Thus, without much difficulty, Yoriichi would defeat Daki and Gyutaro. Upper Moon 6 is eliminated. But guys, so far only one Upper Moon has been eliminated, and there are still more Upper Moon demons remaining. After the elimination of Upper Moon 6, Upper Moon 5, Gyoko enters the fight. As an artist, he will probably try to present his art to Yoriichi, but the moment he tries, Yoriichi will cut his head off immediately. But okay, let's assume that Gyoko somehow manages to trap Yoriichi in his bubble prison. Would Yoriichi be able to escape this trap? The answer is yes. We can't forget that when Muichiro manifested his Demon Slayer mark, he was able to effortlessly defeat Gyoko, which should be enough proof that Gyoko is nothing compared to Yoriichi. After defeating Gyoko, we will now deal with Upper Moon 4, Tengu. Before the fight starts, Yoriichi will sense that this body is not even Upper Moon 4's original body. Upper Moon 4 is hiding somewhere in a smaller body. Tengu will understand that in order to defeat Yoriichi, he would have to come in his true form. Recall how Mitsuri fought him in his true form. Cutting through his wooden dragons is not very difficult, and Mitsuri took some damage because she didn't know that his body was elsewhere. Yoriichi would already be aware of this, so he would completely obliterate Tengu's body and then quickly cut the real body without a second attempt. After all, we're talking about Yoriichi here. Next, we'll have to face Upper Moon 3. From this battle on, things could prove to be tricky for Yoriichi. Although Yoriichi is a human and not completely invincible, he will have to use his head to fight. Even if he manages to cut off Akaza's head, Akaza will not immediately die. We have seen in the manga that when Tanjiro and Gyu cut off Akaza's head, his body could still regenerate it, but Yoriichi can easily counter this. He would need to cut Akaza's head into 1,000 pieces within a few seconds. Is that even possible? Let me tell you, Yoriichi can actually do this because when Yoriichi defeated Muzan, Muzan divided his body into 1,800 pieces, and Yoriichi destroyed 1,500 pieces on the spot in a few seconds. And yes, even Akaza has now been eliminated. Now comes Upper Moon 2, Doma. To fight Doma, Yoriichi may have to put in a bit more effort. Doma uses his skill, cryokinesis, which means he can manipulate the cryo element and make crystals. He can also release a poisonous gas, making it difficult for any Demon Slayer to breathe. Without breathing, how can any Demon Slayer use their breathing style? However, we have seen that to perform any breathing style, a Demon Slayer doesn't need to breathe air constantly. If any Hashira has any air in their lungs, they can perform their moves, as we saw with Muichiro against Gyoko. Yoriichi will only need one or two chances to cut off Doma's head, but he wouldn't miss. After defeating him, we face Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, who is Yoriichi's brother. Realistically speaking, I don't need to explain this fight as it has already taken place. If you argue that Kokushibo from then and Kokushibo today are vastly different, remember that Kokushibo fought Yoriichi when he was old and near death, and even then, Yoriichi defeated him. In today's scenario, we're talking about the young Yoriichi. So yes, Yoriichi would defeat Upper Moon 1 in one shot without a doubt. Finally, we come to Muzan. By now, Muzan would be trembling in fear. We know how this fight will end because Yoriichi defeated Muzan in one shot before. If you argue that this isn't how it works, maybe Muzan was not ready or was weak at that time. However, after that fight, Muzan never appeared in front of Yoriichi again. Muzan feared Yoriichi, knowing that if he ever appeared before Yoriichi, he would be killed. Even now, that would happen. Let's assume Muzan comes with some planning this time and manages to counterattack, but for how long? Yoriichi will keep using his 12 forms repeatedly until Muzan dies. Ultimately, Yoriichi will be the winner of this fight. Of course, after this fight, Yoriichi would be tired from fighting all the strongest demons non-stop. But we're talking about Yoriichi here. He is super overpowered, and perhaps I am a bit biased towards him. By the way, if you're still watching this video, it means you're probably enjoying it. If you are enjoying it, I assume you've liked the video, right? You have, haven't you? Well then, let's discuss the second part of this video. What would happen if the Upper Moon demons from 1 to 6 appeared together in front of Yoriichi with Muzan? This scenario could indeed be quite disastrous, and the whole city might be destroyed because of the fight. Yoriichi would definitely face significant challenges dealing with all of them, because after all, Yoriichi is a human being. Even with his great stamina and power, he still tires out. Yoriichi can get hurt too and may find himself in a critical situation, but it's still possible that he could defeat all of the demons. In this scenario, Yoriichi would need to rely heavily on his intellect. There is no room for even a single mistake. If Yoriichi makes one, the demons could overwhelm him all at once and use their different abilities against him. Muzan would attack using his blood demon art, Kokushibo would use his, Doma would use his, Akaza would use his, Hantengu would use his, and Gyoko and Baki would use theirs. They would undoubtedly overwhelm Yoriichi. While he may be outnumbered, we cannot forget that Yoriichi has the capability to defeat 2 Upper Moons at once. He would need to create some space. Fighting one against all 7 may be challenging, but if Yoriichi isolates the demons, he could potentially inflict significant damage and possibly turn the fight in his favor. This would require a solid plan, skill, and a bit of luck. If he makes even one mistake, he could lose. Yoriichi might only be able to succeed if he uses his sun-breathing techniques to reduce the demon's regenerative capabilities. He would need to deal with each of them one by one and create some space. So yes, this might be possible, but I would still say there's a 60-40 chance of Yoriichi winning, meaning there is a 40% chance he might lose and a 60% chance he might win. So guys, what are your thoughts on this scenario? Please share your opinions in the comments below. Your opinion matters a lot. I'll read the comments and decide who may be right and who is wrong. I'll also reply to you. And yes, if you've watched this video till the end, please like the video and subscribe to the channel to help reach more people like you. See you in the next video.